E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guinwa, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guinwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief.
Welcome to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, here we are on Friday, wrapping up the week of the lost art of storytelling.
Yes, ma'am, we are. And it's been a wonderful week. Monday was kicked off with Emerson Brantley, and then you and I finished up the week. And Emerson kind of set the standard for us up there because he did a great job on that show. In fact, he was the star of the show with his information. And he was the one that taught us about Martin Conroy, his original letter that he created for the Wall Street Journal that they sent out in, mail form, snail mail. And it migrated eventually when technology caught up, or it caught up to technology, I should say, and went out in email form for 25 years, from 1974 to 1999, this simple little story without changing one simple word generated over $1 billion in sales for the Wall Street Journal.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is. That'll buy a few bacon and beans and pay for, you can get a couple of tanks of gas with all that money.
And maybe a cattail.
Yeah, there you go. Was that Glock or which one?
Oh, Glock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's funny. She's funny.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, we have some awesome national days today.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So I love this first one. I sure will. National Give Something Away Day.
Wow. Yeah.
So, not only does it make you feel better, but I am a firm believer in get rid of stuff that is no longer serving you, decluttering, and pass it on to somebody else who can use it. Mm-hmm. But the other reason I'm a big fan of it is I honestly believe, Jim, we don't have room to receive more if we just keep stuff around us. Mm-mm.
There's only so much room in your life for blessings. And if you don't give blessings away, you're not going to have any more storage room left in your life. And it's just a wonderful thing when you give something away. The thing that when you said that came to mind is a good friend of ours, Preston Martelli. Him and his wife and 2 kids went on a around the world trip for 1 year. Preston told me he left his house with 6 suitcases, and he was able to conduct his business because he has an online business. He lived a laptop lifestyle career for 1 year. And Preston and his family, they visited different places and stayed in different periods of time. And they gave stuff away. They received stuff. They gave stuff away. And they left with 6 suitcases and they came home with 4. And he says,
I think it was less than that.
No, it was 4.
I thought it was 2.
You may be right. I'm not sure. But
because the kids gave away toys. They gave away all kinds of stuff.
Yes,
so I think it was 2 that they came home with.
You could be right. But the lesson that they learned was that they didn't need all the things that they thought they needed.
Right.
And they helped so many people in their travels that they were able to teach their kids a very valuable lesson in giving, the importance of giving and sharing. Because Donna and I both know people that, and you do too, that they're only interested in what's in it for them. Mm-hmm. And I simply say, they're only interested in buttering their own bread. And
Right.
people like that, they cheat themselves out of the true riches of life. They really do. Today is also the day of the celebrate the horse. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing to remember. Think about how the horses have helped mankind, from transportation to plowing fields to just all sorts of things. My
To
goodness
war.
gracious. Oh, yeah.
War horses.
Yeah. And it says 6,000 BC is about when horses are estimated to be domesticated by humans, and they started raising horses. And in 3000 BC, the horse domestication became widespread because it was so valuable. And in the 1800s, the oldest living horse was a horse named Old Billy. He was said to have lived to be 62 years of age. Okay.
Wow.
And yeah. And, but it's amazing how people who, are very familiar with horses, they tell a horse's age by looking at his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful thing. Today is also, in addition to celebrating horses, is the day that I love horses. And I know a lot of people that horses are just,
Everything.
means everything to them.
Yep.
I've known girls that participate in rodeo and things like that, barrel racing, and their horse, that's a companion to them. It really
Oh,
is. They're
absolutely.
close.
So this next one is super important too.
Okay.
National Pet Fire Safety Day.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's learning how to keep your pet safe in event of a fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be hard to do, especially like for me, it wouldn't be hard to find Jake, but it might be hard to find my cats. Right. So, one of the things that I would say would be the best prevention is make sure that your smoke detector is up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That the batteries are changed. And there's something that I did not know that my husband told me, because he's been in the housing industry, building homes, luxury homes for, 30 plus years. And he said that just like anything, even though you're, if you have like a fire alarms, etc., that are hardwired in your house, that when one of them goes bad, you have to usually replace them all because they all talk to each other. So this is something I didn't know, and I thought it was important to bring it up since we're talking about that. So if you have that and one of them goes bad and you get a new one and try and replace that one, it is out of date, or the other ones are out of date with the new one and they can't talk to each other. So it's important that they're all, if one goes out and you're hardwired in there, go ahead, be safe for your family and buy the whole shebang and redo them all.
Oh, yeah, that's very important. That's a good point. I didn't know that either, because it kind of makes sense. It's like anything else electronically. Newer editions are, on a higher level, or they have a different algorithm or whatever. But yeah, that's a good thing, because if all it takes is one bad one in the system and the whole system is down.
Right.
It's kind of like the weak link in the chain. And today is also National Tapioca Pudding Day. I call it yapioca.
I love tapioca pudding, but I have to be honest, there's only one kind I'll ever eat, and that's homemade.
I hear you.
Homemade tapioca pudding is the best. When I had my tonsils out when I was 21. Right, a little old to be having your tonsils out, but they were shot. And my mama, she was a great cook and a great baker. That woman made sure that she made homemade chocolate pudding. I mean, homemade, not, homemade chocolate pudding, homemade vanilla pudding, and tapioca pudding. And the caffeine in the chocolate, because my tonsils were so bad that they couldn't cauterize them. They had to stitch them. And they were so bad that the chocolate burned it. It burnt going down. And I'll tell you what, I lived on tapioca pudding for a week.
I hear you. I tell you, getting your tonsils out at that age, I feel for you because back when my brother had to have his tonsils taken out, he would have been 12 because he was 8 years older than me. So it was a thing, elective surgery. And everybody had a vote in this election except me, and I lost. And so we went on the buddy plan. We're both in the same hospital room. And Ben both of us could hardly talk. And, but I didn't suffer nearly as bad as he did. And you know what's weird? In fact, we were talking about this morning. Me and Evan were over coffee. I asked her, I says, I remember, or I told her, I said, I remember when I came home from the hospital and had my tonsils taken out, I brought them home in a jar. And kids did that. I mean, doctors would do that back in the 50s. I don't know why. Okay. And Ellen said, well, I remember that. She says, I remember one person came home with their appendix. And I'm going, right. You know, it's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, who wants
to, a little bit.
Yeah. Who wants to bring your, an ex body part home? Hey, look what they took out of me.
Oh, goodness.
But when it comes to tapioca pudding, ladies and gentlemen, the first reference of it goes back into the 16th century, the 1500s. The word derives from the Tupi, T-U-P-I, language spoken by the natives in the northeastern region of Brazil. Then in the 19th century, a Boston housewife by the name of Susan Stavers, she serves a sailor tapioca pudding that becomes the origin of minute tapioca. Mm-hmm. Then in the 21st century, tapioca pudding makes a tremendous comeback in Michelin-starred restaurants. And the nickname The Guardian describes tapioca pudding as Britain's most hated school pudding. But they must not make it right over there, is all I got to say.
Right. I also use it as a thickener in my pies.
That's a good idea. Mm-hmm. It really is. And last but not least, you want to take the last one there? I like this.
Well, it's awful good. And I think there's a bunch of us out there like it. Today is National Orange Chicken Day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love orange chicken. So good. So good. So it's its original claim to fame, it came into Chinese restaurants all over North America. Mm-hmm. But it's not strictly authentic to any original Chinese dish, although the flavor profile is inspired by the Hunan province of China. Mm-hmm. Some of the most beloved versions can be easily described as chicken nuggets tossed in a delightfully tangy, zesty, sticky sauce, which contains mostly Asian food staples like vinegar, soy sauce, ginger, and garlic. So it was started being celebrated annually in 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But more than 2,100 years ago, Hunan cuisine reached its peak standard due to the sheer range of dishes it offered, over 4,000, along with its cooking techniques. Yes, that's a lot.
Looking at the timeline down there below it, it says in the 1950s that orange beef became all the rage. It was invented in Beijing. Orange beef becomes a hit in restaurants and is close in nature to orange chicken. I have never heard of orange beef before.
I don't think I've ever had orange beef. I know I make Mongolian beef, and that is really good. Very time consuming.
Oh yeah. What all goes into Mongolian beef, if you don't mind me asking?
You cut up beef. I use flank steak, and I cut it up in small bite-sized pieces, and then you bread it, right? You flour, and then you have to fry it up. And I'm trying to remember. It takes so long. I don't make it. I usually make it once a year because it is so intensive in labor. Even for me, it takes me probably an hour and a half from start to finish to make it.
Wow.
Yeah. So then after that, you're making a sauce, and I can't remember what all's in it, but it has to cook down, and then you make your rice and you put it over rice, and then I cut up onions, little
Hmm.
green onions, super fine, and sprinkle on the top of it. And it is so good. It is so good.
So you don't actually have to add any Mongolians to it or anything,
No, no, no. Oh, goodness.
I tell you, it's amazing. Yeah, it really is. And, when it comes to orange beef and that sort of thing, in 1987, there was a chef by the name of Andy, I guess it's Kho. He invents his orange chicken. And he was working at the Panda Express in Hawaii, and he comes up with his now famous Panda Express orange chicken. And orange chicken became a bestseller in 2013 at the Panda Express. It sold more than 65 million pounds of just orange chicken.
Hmm.
And that's a delicious dish, isn't it?
It is one of my favorites.
You know it. And getting back to what our theme is this week, the lost art of storytelling. We covered that a lot of good stuff there. And I'd like to kick it off, if I may, with just giving a brief overview of Martin Conroy's $1 billion letter. As I said a little bit earlier, it was just a simple story. They did not change one word. And then it migrated, became electronic letter and email. And the whole key of it was centered around knowledge. It tells the story of these two young men who graduated from college. They were equal, just about. Both of them were great students, and they were met 25 years later, and they were about the same. They were happily married. Both of them had 3 kids. Both of them worked for the same company. One was a manager in a small department, and the other was the president of it. And they asked what was the difference. The difference was, not that one had more desire than the other or anything like that. Just one was able to utilize knowledge more so than the other one. And then it went right into the close. This is what Wall Street Journal offers as knowledge so that people can make the right knowledgeable decision in their business. And that just
Skyrocketed.
That did it. Yeah. Simple, short, clean. It just a good story reaches out and grab you, doesn't it, Donna?
It does, but it has to have the basics in it. And we're gonna, we're closing up today on this week talking about this. So we want to kind of go over from the beginning to the end. Storytelling is in business is, how to tell a good story about your business. What is in storytelling? So you should, communicate with your potential customers, telling the story rather than listing facts. Facts can be what?
Forgotten.
And forgotten. So you really want to reach out and grab them by telling a story. So, and also by doing that, it helps you stand out from your competitors, and it provides your customers a storyline in which will make them remember you. And stories in business help large brands and small brands connect with customers in a deeper, more meaningful manner.
It really does. I mean, Donna hit it on the head because whatever your story is, whatever you want to present to people, you want them to remember you and your product or service, whatever it was that you're offering. You want them to remember you and your offer. That's
Right.
the bottom line. That's what a story is all about in a nutshell.
And so in order to do that, you need to make a personality, right, for your business, right? Because if your business has no personality, what's it going to sell? What's it going to sell? Absolutely nothing, right? Well, this is a real fine product, and Jim, I really think you should buy it.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. I'll consider it.
Next. So that's why, you don't want to state facts, but you want to create the personality of your story and how it came to be.
Let it develop its own personality. That's a great way of putting that, Donna. I'm glad you mentioned that. Because these are some tips we'd like to share with you that you can use for better storytelling. And the first of it is keep it simple. If you saw
Yes.
Martin Conroy's, just Google it, Martin Conroy's story about the Wall Street Journal, you'll be amazed how simple it is. Because if you start including too many details or making your story very, very longer than it needs to be, what happens? People just
You've
drift away.
lost your people. You've lost your potential customer.
Because especially now, since COVID hit, people have a shorter focus time. They really do. So you just want to hit them with the nuts and bolts of the things that's really important.
Pretty much a 1-2 punch.
Basically, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And practice telling your story. The more you practice your story, the better it will become for you to share with others.
Mm-hmm.
And don't throw in all this personal stuff.
Well, and the other thing is, don't throw in fluff words.
Yes, yes.
So a lot of times we've heard people speak, and I try and be very cognizant in areas that I need a little help in, because I hear it myself. But there are people out there who speak and they tell their story the same way. And you'll hear this. Hi, my name's Donna Guinwa, and I'm with Messages of Inspirational Stories. And we have a great show every week. We tend to have stories about things that can help you. And so make sure all those fluff words and those words you don't need are out of the way, because that will kill your story.
Yeah.
That will kill your story.
And we haven't, we don't pre-practice anything when we go live, because we want it to be live. But just think about what Donna said there. What if Donna came on and says, imagine being able to tune into a TV show that shares information to help you and your business get from where you are to where you want to be. You'd probably say, tell me more. Those that's not interested would be out of there.
Next.
And that's good too. Yeah. And you could see the difference in appeal. You're not trying to impress them. You're trying to you're trying to appeal them to you.
Right.
And that's the bottom line, because when you're doing storytelling, in addition to keep it simple and practicing your story, be honest. Honesty and authenticity. I can't say that word today.
Authenticity.
Let me oil my tongue right quick. But it's amazing how you got to be authentic and how that will help your story and brand, because it'll help you better connect with readers, because people can easily see, even over the TV screen here out in TV land. If Donna and I were sitting here and we were telling you a bunch of fluff and a bunch of abracadabra, stuff, you could pick up on that.
Sure.
The energy and authenticity flows across what Donna said. It flows right across the TV screen. It really does, right into your gut. It really does. And that's why being honest. And we know one person that every time we've heard that person's story about their journey, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think who I'm talking. I see Donna smiling.
I do.
Wow, and now guess what else happened? And guess what? And that's a clear case of being very insecure, because like Donna tells her story about what she went through the same day that she was diagnosed or got the report back from the doctor that you've been diagnosed, you have MS, was the very same day she was going over after that doctor's appointment to schedule her first brain surgery. And, that's all that needs to be added to that story, because those are the facts that actually happen. And that's going to resonate with people to understand, wow, I know how, I can imagine how she felt, because I can feel how she feels. And that's critical. She don't need to go in. And also I had to go over and find my dentist said I needed a root canal. And then, another surgeon said I need to have my
parking was just a real pain in the rear end to find. And
and my car got towed away. But I mean, you got to keep it honest, keep it authentic, keep it simple.
And keep it short.
Yes, because that's what people want. They want to be able to connect with you.
Right?
And
you want to tell them enough to get them interested, to get them emotionally connected, so that they that they want more knowledge about what it is you do. Then they will seek you out, and then you can get into a little more detail. That's the key.
And that's what they'll remember about you and your story. And that's what you want. That's the mission. And be sure and add value. And you do that by you actually choose the details or parts of that story that will add the most value to the person listening to you or reading what you send out.
And value can be in a question. Have you ever felt this way? Would you like to know the simple ways to get through XYZ? That adds value to it.
Exactly.
Because you're giving them something. So, one of the, and I'm just going to read this. I'm not going to read the whole synopsis of these, but I'm just going to read the top part of the benefits of using storytelling in business. It engages customers and employees. It creates a memory. It triggers emotions and feelings. It will develop customer loyalty. It gives your business a competitive advantage. It helps persuade customers to take action. Big steps right there.
Absolutely. And another thing too is make it entertaining. Because entertaining stories have the ability to hold a reader's attention longer than just, it's kind of like, when you're speaking, if a person is monotone and keeps talking in a monotone.
Or they talk super fast and because they're super excited and they're really nervous and then you can't understand a word they say, but they just keep going on and on and they barely even take a breath.
What'd you just say? But, blend in humor with it too. So, I almost passed out in the elevator when I heard that or whatever. But, make it entertaining for them.
Right.
And also make it universal. Stories that are universal automatically reach a wider audience.
Right.
If it fits your product, if it fits your, service or whatever it is, make it universal. And that's very important too, because if someone wants to lose weight, it would be for male and female.
Right. And the other thing is that if you are speaking in person, and this is important, if you're speaking in person to a group, a networking group or what have you, and if you're like me, it happens, your tongue literally gets in the way of your brain because they're not going at the same speed all the time. And you make a mistake, just go with it. Stop, take a breath and say, wow, if my tongue will catch up with my brain, I could continue, and make a joke of it. Don't freak out because, it's human. It's human for us to make a mistake. Just laugh at yourself and go on. And let me tell you, by doing that, you will engage those people to be more endeared to you because you showed your human aspect.
That's a very good point, because just like earlier when I couldn't pronounce that big word that Donna did, I just laughed it off because it's funny,
Right.
And don't ever use big words trying to impress people with your knowledge. That is a train wreck 100% of the time. Write and speak at the 6th grade level.
Yep.
Because I've seen speakers on stage and you're up there and they got they're dressed nicely, which is appropriate. And then they try to impress people with persona and the verbiage that they use.
Right.
And, it's just, it's a total disconnect, because if people do not understand, they may realize that you're very an articulate speaker or writer, but if they don't understand your message, How many sales will they make, Donna?
They'll make none, because what happens when you use words that don't need to be used, big words, and instead of using a simpler word, you have to put yourself in somebody else's shoe. So maybe there's people in that audience who don't understand those words. Okay?
That's right.
Maybe they don't have a higher education, and you use big fancy words, you are going to make them feel, and I hate using this word, but I'm going to use it to demonstrate my point. You're going to make them feel stupid. And you're going to make them feel inferior and uneducated. And it's automatically a wall that's going to go down in front of them. And they may have been your best customer.
Absolutely. And another thing too is that just think about, simple words here like soft drinks or sodas. Look at the different ways it's referred to throughout the United States. And that's a very simple example. So you might be using verbiage that is not in their, it doesn't turn often around in their world. They're not familiar with that verbiage.
So something else I would add, depending on what part of the country you're in, it also depends on your verbiage.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, there's one part of the country that uses, a soft drink or soda, and another part of the country that uses the word pop. Both mean the same thing, but it's about communicating and understanding your audience.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And that's very, very critical, because all the time, if you put in there, you may have a great story, but you may be using verbiage that they may not be familiar with.
Right.
Due to the level of their education or their background, where they're from and all that. I'm going to tell you a funny story right quick out of school. In North Carolina, where I was born and raised, soft drinks, I don't know why they were referred to this, but they were referred to as dopes, D-O-P-E-S. I don't know where it came from, but it was very, very common there in the hometown where I came from, Shelby, North Carolina. And this is back in the 50s. And a friend of mine, he goes out to Las Vegas and he walks into a supermarket and he asks the guy, he says, "Where you keep your dopes?" And the guy looked at him and he says, "Sir, we don't sell that here." He says, "Everybody sells dope." And he didn't know. I mean, he just didn't realize. He just thought everybody called it dopes.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And he said, the guy looked at him kind of weird, and he said, "Well, over there they are. That's ours where you keep your dopes." He says, "Oh, you mean soda pop or whatever you want to call it, But it's just amazing how, in certain areas, small towns and stuff like that, there's certain lingos in there. So you're going to be dealing with that. So that's why you want to keep your language simple at the 6th grade level and communicate with them in a caring type of way, a caring type of voice, and not a sales pitch.
Right.
That's, when's the last time you picked up your remote and went surfing for a sales pitch on TV?
Right.
That's a good way to look at it. Is this a sales pitch or is this a good story?
Right.
So, and like we said, Donna said this last show, get other people's feedback on your story.
So important. Get people that you respect and trust. People who aren't going to just tell you it sounds great because they don't want to hurt your feelings. You want somebody who's going to be honest with you and have constructive criticism, because that is truly the only way you're going to grow.
Exactly. Because if someone, kind of like say, "Well, it's pretty good. It's okay." No, it's not pretty good, and it's not okay. Pretty good is not good.
Right.
And if it's okay, it's not okay. And just just say, "Hey, be honest with me. I want some honest feedback. If it stinks, tell me. You're not going to hurt my feelings."
Right.
Because
I want to do this right.
Yeah, I'm trying to perfect it, and I value your input. and put them at ease and let them
Right.
give you and then ask some questions. Okay. What would, in your opinion, what would you think would be better said there?
Right.
They may give
What
you a
parts
good
would you
tip.
take out? What parts would we keep?
Right. Mhm. And ask for feedback and ask for their
Mhm.
tips. You may use them, you may not, but at least it'll broaden your area of knowledge about
Absolutely.
the impact your story has. And that's so critical. I'm looking here at on the 10 best famous storytellers and how to become one. I'm not going to get into the individuals there, but they do mention some great things here about what is storytelling. And we covered this in stories have to create memories. Oh, we're going to hammer that a little bit more because that is so important. Your story must have some memorability to it. It's got to have some stickability in their mind. And
Right.
Donna, I'll tell you right now, I've known businesses that I automatically, when I need a certain product, they flash in my mind, or a person, they
Right.
flash in my mind. That's what you want. That's what a story can do for you. And
Discount tire.
oh, yeah, tell that story again, like you did the other day about the little old lady. I love that story.
This was in the 70s. This was in the 70s. And it showed this lady, I mean, a little old grandma, right? Complete with a little white sweater buttoned right here in the dress. And she had wire rim glasses, and she's a little petite thing. And the commercial on TV was discount tires. If you don't like our tire, feel free to bring it back. And it shows this little old grandma throwing the tire right through the front window of Discount Tire. And so it's been a few years since the 70s were around, and I've seen that commercial, but I'll never forget it. And that's actually who I buy my tires from, is Discount Tire. Because not just because of that, but I'll tell you what, because every experience I've had has been good. They don't try and upsell me. I get the best customer service and the best deal. So why would I take my business elsewhere?
Exactly.
And they're nationwide.
I was going to say that if you're on the road, I like to do business local, but something like that, if you're on the road and you got a problem with the tire, the person back home can't really help like Discount Tire can. But I just picture that because she goes up there and she starts swinging that tire and it goes right through the window, and it shows this broken glass, ladies and gentlemen, on the floor. Yeah. And the broken glass still spells out Discount Tire, and there's a tire laying on top of it.
Feel free to bring it back.
And I just remembered. Well, in fact, I looked it up just between me and you. Don't tell anybody. But it was 1984 when Clara Piller was the lady for Wendy's restaurant. And she became a household word because, people just repeated it, where's the beef? And she'd open up the sandwich, where's the beef? And it was Clara Piller, and it was a 1984 campaign for Wendy's. And she was quite a gal. She was born August the 4th, 1902, and she died August the 11th, 1987. So this 1984 campaign, she was, a little old lady, to be nice. But where's the beef? Donna, how many times you ever hear anybody, just popping off like, hey, where's the beef?
Right. Oh,
it was, oh yeah.
It was big. It was big.
That's like the movie Smokey and the Bandit came out in 1977. And that's what kickstarted the CB craze, Smokey and the Bandit. It was also the show that knocked Star Wars out of number one place. And you'd hear people, guys calling other guys Cletus and son and all that, because that was the verbiage in the movie.
Right.
And the people love to be here. I'm sorry?
Breaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. That was a scream with Jackie Gleason and Burt Reynolds and
Sally Field.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was a wonderful movie. Pontiac gave them 3 Pontiac Trans Am. They trashed every one of them.
Right.
Oh, it's quite a entertaining thing. But the point of it is, people remember things that stick in their mind. And when your story and your product comes together in perfect unison, and when they think about whatever it is that you're offering, your service, product, whatever, they automatically think of you. That's the mission. We keep saying it, but it's so true.
It is. And the next one is understanding that you have to determine your audience. Jim, we know how this is important, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So if your product is for the older generation, you don't want to use lingo or waste your time, energy, and money in trying to attract the 20-year-old crowd, right? Or if it's just a product for women or a product for men or what have you, you want to stick with that. Determine your audience. Understand how to get to them.
Exactly. Exactly, because your product must fit the demographics, and that is key. Because, like energy drinks, kids in their 20s buy a lot of energy drinks, but really when you would think about it in your 20s, how much energy do you need,
I was just going to say, when I was in my 20s, I didn't need an energy drink.
I didn't either. I was firing on all 8 cylinders and everything.
Yeah, I think I had a few extra to fire off of.
Yeah. And of course, when you make your story personal, that's what every story's got to be. It's got to be personal. Just like that original, the greatest campaign ever written was about 2 guys, but everybody was reading it could see, hey, that could be me. I could be one of those 2 characters. Right. Make it personal to draw them in. You're not going to draw in a mob, so draw people in with the focus of one at a time.
Right.
And that's the key to storytelling.
It is. And find a hero. Find a hero. And so if your product is a hero, then make that your hero. Right?
Yeah.
And it's, it may take several drafts to get this going the right way. Right? Yeah. I'd be surprised if you could do it the first or second time, and you might be able to. I know I can't. I have to redraft my redraft, and then I redraft that redraft of the redraft draft.
I do R&D on mine. Regroup and disarrange.
Right.
But one of the things here that I'm seeing here, and this makes perfect sense. We haven't said it before here on the show, but referring back to Martin Conroy's letter, he sprinkled this several times. And their suggestion is sprinkle your main thoughts throughout your story. And don't use all the main points at the beginning of your story. That's what a lot of people like to do. And if you don't use main points throughout your story, you will lose your audience.
Right.
And that one word in that story was about knowledge.
Right. Because that is what you're keeping them interested in on an intellectual and on an emotional level. And that's what brings your customer back to remember you and to buy from you.
Some of the best storytellers are, and I'm not this, I wish I was at this level, but I'm not. But, you may be, Donna may be. But leave room for surprises, they recommend. I like this here. It says the best storytellers don't want their audience to know exactly what to expect. This means that you must hold back some of your more pertinent information to surprise the audience with awesome information later on. That's exactly what that original letter did. It waited until the very end to mention where people could find that knowledge. That Wall Street Journal. That's what it's talking about there. And that's absolutely brilliant.
Yep, but they keep talking about it's a crescendo. It builds up. And the very last part says, and you can find that knowledge in the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, yeah.
Boom.
And that's when people say, yes, sign me up.
Absolutely. If you are talking in front of people, again, keep it pretty short and simple. Keep it short and simple. And, doing it this way, builds up the information that you want to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're in a writing campaign this way, the lost, art of storytelling, or you're telling your story verbally. It goes hand in hand.
Oh, sure does. And Donna, one of the people that I read about who was a very good storyteller, and everyone will know this as soon as I say it, was Walt Disney, because Walt Disney could brought out the kid in
Yes.
all of us.
Absolutely.
Oh, I mean, when we used to go to movies as adults, young teenagers, especially drive-ins or wherever, the best part of the going to the show was seeing the cartoons. It really was. I mean, the cartoons are on. Hey, we're all, we're glued to that because cartoons were infotaining. They were entertaining. They were fun. But Walt Disney had the ability to communicate, not only in word, but in action, to bring out the kid in everybody. And that's why Disney was such a great success.
Well, and in later time, of course, too, is also J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter series. And,
yes.
I had, all my babies were young when that came out. And my folks had bought it and sent me the books. And they're hefty books. They're pretty thick, right? And I would stay up and I would just devour those books and just literally read. I would lose sleep. I'd be okay losing sleep. I was so into the book, because she brought out such an imagination and something that up to that point in time, we had not seen before. And think about it, Jim, in all of the Walt Disney and in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, there's always a hero, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell
there's
you,
a villain, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to name an individual right now that stories was what he wrote and sang about. And you know who I'm going to say. You know exactly who I'm going to say. And this guy, all he did was write and sing stories about people in his life. He was known as the everyday man's poet. And that gentleman was, I'm going to say it.
Merle Haggard.
Think about that. The songs that he wrote and the songs that he sang. He's by far head and shoulders above every other country artist of his time. And like he was thinking about a song, he wrote it, and he wrote it for Marty Robbins, and he tried to find Marty Robbins. Merle was in Bakersfield. Marty was over in Nashville. Now, this is before cell phones, obviously. This is back in the 60s. And he called and tried to find him, couldn't find him. He said, heck with it, I'll record it myself. And it's been recorded about 700 times by other artists.
Right.
And he wrote it because him and his wife, Bonnie, his third wife, Bonnie, they were kind of like out on the outs. And then one day he was looking at her and remembering who she was, how much she meant to him. And he wrote the song and sang it, "Today I Started Loving You Again." Right. Oh my goodness gracious. You see how that would just reach out and grab people. It's not like the stuff today. I'm not saying we don't have good singers today in any branch of music, but I mean, like George Harrison wrote a beautiful song, that, there's something in the way she moves, attracts me like no other lover. That's beautiful. And now we hear all these lyrics and stuff and rap and stuff. And I mean, it's just, there's a total disconnect. There's a total disconnect because music has a wonderful way of being able to inspire people. So when you add your story to just music now, not words, but music, make sure the music and the story blend to carry the emotion because, I was just going to say, we're all the vibration. We love music. That's why you hear a song, you got to get up and boogie,
Right. But that is really important that you have to have that flow, right? You can't have a stop and a start and a stop and a start and then go on a tangent over here. It has to be a flow, and it's sort of like, when you you want to write it to where the last part of it is the big 4th of July fireworks, right? And it gives all the information of what's going to be the big attraction.
Mm-hmm.
The big attraction. So it's so important to have that flow. And it's so important to have the rhythm when you're writing it, that it sounds right, that it hits all the levels. Wow, I know a little bit about it. I like it. I want to hear more, right? I want to be able to know this, like this, so I can trust this.
Amen. Amen. Another person I like to mention briefly, because we're running short on time, and that was Steve Jobs. Mm-hmm. Steve Jobs made the list of being a great storyteller. His entire career is based on stories. It really is. He understood his products. He helped found Apple computers, sure. But not only did he understand that his product needed customers, listen to this. He knew that they needed disciples. This would be people who would tell his stories as their very own to move his business forward. That's what made Apple Apple.
Right.
And you think about how, because that creates inspiration with people. Imagine building a tribe of people who are inspired about your coaching ability, your speaking ability, the products that you offer, whether it's a lotion, potion, or pill, or whatever it might be. Think about getting disciples who are inspired about sharing your story, your struggle.
Right.
That's amazing, because I remember Gallery Furniture, which is a big company in Houston, sells a lot of furniture. Mattress Mac, he's known as, Jim McInville, his dad, I heard him speak one time. He says, we teach our salespeople to tell our story. That's right. Exactly what Steve Jobs did.
Right.
And, if you're in multi-level marketing or something, you got to be able to get a good story there. And maybe not so much about yourself, about the company, the products, the struggle, the trial and, error period or whatever. I mean, find something that's infotaining, entertaining, and can draw people in and give them a reason why to remember your story.
Right. And one of the ways to do that is when you're asking people for their honest opinion about, your business, ask them what would the 2 things you would be looking for? What would 2 be the things that you would be looking for that I am going to be offering? And if you ask a couple of people that like, and trust, you're going to get several answers. Then you can maybe have a better clarity of how to put something together.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to leave you with these 2 final questions for your thinking cap. That is, number 1, who is telling the story? And number 2, why is this story being told? Think about that. Let that soak in. Just center your thoughts around that, because, be sure and share our show with others, because we're getting close on time, because this entire week has been a nugget week. It really has. Golden nuggets every day.
Absolutely.
And the information Donna shared with you, and I have, especially Emerson, on Monday, my goodness gracious. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel there, Messages of Inspirational Stories. And let me get that on there. Or you can follow us on Facebook at Inspirational Stories TV show. And it's just Messages, Inspirational Stories of Messages of Inspiration. You think I'd be able to know the name of the show, you win. Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show on Facebook, the same title on YouTube. Or you can go to messagesofinspirationalstories.live live. It's a blog type of website. All of our previous shows are listed there. All of our shows are on YouTube. And please be sure and visit it and share it with others, because I know that in addition to you, there may be someone else out there who could benefit from all this fantastic information. If we package this as a course, this week TV show, it'd be worth what? $3,000-$4,000, maybe more, especially with hands-on training. Well, I'd take it more. Yeah. And just think about all the great information that's here available at your fingertips. And Donna, I'll tell you right now, some of the great information you brought out and your point of view and your perspective, you just put the icing on the cake for this week, girl.
Well, thank you. But it was, it's the energy that we have between us, Jim. I probably wouldn't be able to think of it if you hadn't said something that came to it. And that is key too. Have somebody who helps you bring energy.
Oh, yeah. And have someone help you pronounce words properly when you can't mispronounce, when all you do is mispronounce them.
Right. Absolutely. Authenticity.
See what Donna said. Listen, it's Friday afternoon. We've had a wonderful week with you. Bless you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope that you and your family, your loved ones are healthy, happy, and safe. And most importantly, I want to mention real quickly Mr. Bill Heinrich's book, The 7 Levels of Truth. Bill is a good friend of ours. Let me hold it up there, hold it back in the camera there. I'm not real good with cameras. The 7 Levels of Truth. It's on Amazon.
I got his website up.
Oh, okay, yeah. Go to his website, truelifepurposenow.com, because Bill helps you clean up the inner game that's going on in your life that's creating all these disconnects. And don't forget to get in touch with Donna at her email address, highenergyrightnow@gmail.com, because Donna would be more than happy to share a 30-minute complimentary call with you to find out what's blocking your energy. As she says, is it a person, is it a place, is it a thing, or is it a combination of the three? But you got to free yourself. And the way you do that, love yourself first, then you can love others, because you cannot give something that you do not have.
Right.
And as Donna likes to say, be sure and give yourself
grace. Lots of grace, folks.
That's important, isn't it, Donna?
It's very important.
Well, folks, we got to run. We're out of time. We'll see you next week. We're going to be talking about the lost art of verbal communication, especially let those little, people on the cell phone. Tell them we got to tune in for this one here.
Absolutely.
I might even say something intelligent.
Authenticity.
I'll take her word for it.
Folks, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.